Aztec mythology is the body or collection of myths of Aztec civilization of central Mexico. The Aztecs were Nahuatl-speaking groups living in central Mexico, and much of their mythology is similar to that of other Mesoamerican cultures. According to legend, the various groups who were to become the Aztecs arrived from the north into the Anahuac Valley, around Lake Texcoco. The location of this valley and lake of destination is clear, which is in the heart of modern Mexico City, but little can be known with certainty about the origin of the Aztecs. There are different accounts of their origin. According to myth, the ancestors of the Mexica Aztecs came from a place in the north called Aztlan, the last of 7 nahuatlacas, which were Nahuatl-speaking tribes, to make the journey southward, hence their name, Azteca. Other accounts cite their origin in Chicomoztoc, the place of the 7 caves, or at Tamoanchan, the legendary origin of all civilizations. Join me as we study about some of the most prominent Aztec divine entities in this chapter called Aztec Mythology. Quetzalcoatl, pronounced Quetzalcoatl, was the Aztec version of the feathered serpent deity that permeated Mesoamerican mythologies. Though he originated as a vegetation deity, Quetzalcoatl's role in the Aztec mythos expanded over time. By the time the Spanish arrived in the New World, Quetzalcoatl was regarded as the deity of wind, patron of priests, and inventor of calendars and books. He was also occasionally used as a symbol of death and resurrection. Quetzalcoatl's name, which means feathered serpent, was derived from the Nahuatl words for the Quetzal bird, and Coatl meaning serpent. Unlike the newer deities of the Aztec pantheon, Quetzalcoatl shared his namesake with the feathered serpent deities of the Xipe Maya and the Yucatec Maya. The name of the Xipe Maya deity, Cuauhtémoc, meant Quetzal serpent, while the Yucatec Maya deity Cuculcan translated to the less specific feathered serpent. Ōmeteōtl, a dual deity formed of Ōmeteōtl and Ōmeteōtl. Ōmeteōtl was an Aztec creation deity who fathered 4 of the pantheon's most venerated deities, including Quetzalcoatl. In Aztec mythology, Ōmeteōtl was a binary deity comprised of the husband and wife due Ōmeteōtl and Ōmeteōtl, who was responsible for the creation of the universe. The Aztecs believed that prior to Ōmeteōtl creating themselves, the universe was unknowable, and for all intents and purposes did not exist. Residing in the 13th and highest heaven, Ōmeteōtl existed outside of human influence and rarely interacted with other deities. In Nahuatl, the Aztec language, Ōmeteōtl literally meant dual deity, or lord of duality. Tezcatlipoca, pronounced Tezcatlipoca, an omnipresent deity capable of shapeshifting into a jaguar, was an incredibly important member of the Aztec pantheon. He ruled over the modern age, having usurped his younger brother Quetzalcoatl through trickery. As with his elder brother Xipe Totec, the Aztecs offered Tezcatlipoca annual human sacrifices. The Aztec deity Tezcatlipoca was a powerful, omnipresent deity, one of the creators of the Aztec world. In Nahuatl, Tezcatlipoca meant smoking mirror. This name referred to the obsidian mirrors that the Aztecs used during ceremonial divination. Depictions of Tezcatlipoca frequently replaced one of his feet with an obsidian mirror. The famed Aztec deity of war, Huītzilōpōchtli, pronounced Huītzilōpōchtli, was the patron god of the Mexica people and a key figure in the creation of the Aztec cosmogony. Huītzilōpōchtli led the Aztec people to Tenochtitlan, a fact that was not easily forgotten. Half of the city's major temple was dedicated to him. Fallen warriors and women who died in childbirth were thought to become a part of his retinue. After accompanying Huītzilōpōchtli for a period of 4 years, the fallen warriors would be reborn as hummingbirds. Translated literally, Huītzilōpōchtli's name meant hummingbirds left, or hummingbird on the left. For a while, scholars suggested this should be taken to mean left-handed hummingbird, as hummingbirds were thought to be reincarnated warriors. The implied meaning of the name was adjusted to reincarnated warrior deity from the south. Xipe Totec, or the Flayed One, was an Aztec fertility deity with a penchant for wearing people's skin. His rituals included gladiatorial sacrifice and ritual flaying. Xipe Totec was also the Aztec deity of agriculture, seasons, goldsmiths, and disease. He was often depicted wearing a suit of flayed skin, and his associated ceremonies emphasized his choice of attire. Such rituals usually culminated in a fresh skin suit being made and worn by either a statue of Xipe Totec or one of his priests. While some Aztec deities had names that require interpretation to understand, Xipe Totec's name simply meant, Our Lord the Flayed One. This was an apt name, as he was nearly always depicted wearing the flayed skin of a sacrificial victim. Mictlantecuhtli, one of the oldest deities in the Aztec pantheon, was the Aztec deity of death who ruled over Mictlan, the land of the dead. Like Hades, the Greek underworld, Mictlan was where most people would spend their afterlife, regardless of moral standing. Mictlantecuhtli name reflects his role in Aztec cosmology, as well as his place of residence. His name comes from his status as the ruler of Mictlan, and simply means Lord of the Land of the Dead. Mictlantecuhtli was most commonly depicted as a skeletal figure, though reliefs have also been found depicting him as a skull with eyes. He was sometimes shown with his mouth open, ready to receive the setting stars that disappeared during the day. Tonatiuh was the fifth Aztec sun and a deity who brought light to the current era. His demise would signal the end of humanity. According to Aztec beliefs, the current era is the fifth age. The previous four ages were defined by their unique sun, each of which was ultimately destroyed. After the fourth sun was destroyed, the Aztec deities gathered together to create the fifth and final sun, Tonatiuh. Like the suns that preceded him, Tonatiuh was not immortal. Upon his death, the world would descend into permanent darkness and the reign of men would come to an end. The Aztecs frequently referred to their deities by multiple names, and Tonatiuh was no exception. Traditionally, Aztec deities and individuals would go by the calendar name of their date of birth. Tonatiuh was created on Noyolan, or full movement. This name was part of a prophecy predicting that the current age would be destroyed by earthquakes. One of the oldest and most widely worshipped Mesoamerican deities, Tlaloc was the Aztec deity of rain and thunder. It was by his blessing that the seasonal rains arrived on time for the vital corn harvest. While his rains often brought life to Mesoamerican societies, they could also take it away. If they arrived at the wrong time, or came in the form of intense storms, the rains could ruin crops and cause drought or flooding. Tlaloc is one of several deities the Mexica people refused to fully abandon following the introduction of Christianity, and in many ways his veneration was never completely forsaken. Tlaloc's name is derived from the Nahuatl word, Tlali, which means earth or soil. His name has been taken to mean, in the earth, perhaps referencing the moisture of soil. Xochiquetzal, the Aztec deity of erotic love and weaving. Xochiquetzal was an ancient lunar deity adopted from the classical Mayan pantheon. Xochiquetzal, pronounced Xochiquetzal, was the Aztec deity of fertility, sexuality, pregnancy, and traditional female handicrafts such as weaving. She was also heavily associated with the moon and the various lunar phases. Xochiquetzal's name was a combination of the Nahuatl words, Xochit meaning flower, and Huītzilōpōchtli, meaning either Quetzal bird, or the highly desirable tail feathers of that bird. Taken all together, her name was often interpreted as flower Quetzal feather.